What's going on, my peoples? It's been a while. Today is Monday, so you already know what that means. It is time for the... Damn, nothing popped up. Hopefully something will pop up on YouTube when I do this. But it's time for Mastery Mondays. For those that are tuning in, and it's your first time, it's okay. I'm Zaf, played Street Fighter for approximately like 8 years or some change about that. And I travel, I compete, and I like teaching people because it makes me a lot better and it makes them better too, right? So what I try to accomplish on these streams on the Mondays is basically I take a concept of Street Fighter, I break it down, and I make it digestible for everybody. All skill levels, like beginners, intermediates, advanced players, experts, whatever. So I just conceptualize things, bring forth some analogies that might make things like, you know, click, bridge the gap for some people. And yeah, that's what I basically set out to do. So today and the last couple of Mastery Mondays, I've been doing episodes on Footsies because that's something that a lot of people don't understand. It's a really abstract concept and it's very intimidating when you look at and try to go about digesting it your own way. Neo Cable, what's going on, brother? So that's what I'm here for. I've been traveling a lot. I competed a lot. I've gone over like 30 majors and I've traveled as far as Japan just to play Street Fighter. And so who else than me to do this, right? So this past weekend I was at Red Bull Conquest. I'm pretty sure some of you guys have probably seen, and I've seen some of you guys there. And I met some really cool people there. I met my homie Hot Stepper for the first time. That was awesome. And he frequents the chat a lot. So he was giving me some great feedback about how much the content that I've been putting out has impacted his Street Fighter play. And I'm very grateful for that because, you know, I don't know how the content affects people. I just put it out there and hope it works. So when people come to me and they tell me these things, it's very gratifying. I feel really good about what I'm doing. And my goal, of course, is to make you guys better Street Fighter players, but I want to elevate you guys inside and outside of the game by elevating you in life also. So there's that. So that's my thing, and that's what I do. That's my theme of my stream. Bars. All right? So we'll get into it. So let me see. Let me pop this up really quick. What's up, Shut 'em Down? What's going on, Nell Bomb? Neo Cable, of course. I appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, you guys already know the deal. Okay, so let's see. Oh, first and foremost, let me put the chat up on my phone. That way I don't have to keep switching tabs. All right, let's see. All right, what's up, Krieg? Krieg, now I know who you are. All right. All right, so here we go. Cool. So for those who haven't been around for the first couple of episodes on this particular subject, I basically use the Sonic Hurricane Footsies hand guide as a reference point, and it provides like exceptional examples of certain tactics that occur in Footsies and stuff like that, all of which is uploaded on my YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel is the same exact handle as my Twitch. So if you do enjoy this live stream and you're like, I would like to see what he says about the other things that I missed, then you just backtrack over there and you'll have everything uploaded nice and neat with timestamps, so you can just click on whatever example you need. All right, guys? So today we're going to be doing chapters 7, 8, and 9. We already did 1 through 3 2 weeks ago, and then 4 through 6 last week. So today we're going to do chapter 7, 8, and 9. All right? Cool. So, let me get into Professor mode. So let's see. Street Fighter Footsies Handbook, Chapter 7. All right? Cool. This week's installment, okay, this is really old, by the way, guys. Like, as you can tell, this is from like 2010, maybe even further back. Some of these go back as far as like 2009. So don't mind the date. All of this is still relevant, and it's easily transferable to any fighting game that you play. Okay, to 2D fighters at that. 3Ds, that's another realm, but 2Ds, this is definitely applicable. So this week's installment highlights assorted tricks of the trade which may help refine your game further. When combined with the basic tools outlined in previous chapters, your character will become even more elusive at mid-range. So let's talk about being elusive. Being elusive is really good because when you're static, it means it's easy to hit you. So let's imagine we're in a street fight and, you know, you're squared up with somebody opposite of you and that guy's just sitting there, like he's not moving. You know what I'm saying? He's just in one place. You're more likely to land your punches. And the more likely you are to land your punches, the more power you can put behind your punches. You see what I'm saying? So being elusive at mid-range is a really good strength to have in footsies. I think Infiltration is like one of the players that really pushed that in the most recent of years, because his fluidity and his movement overall, that's like his strength, you know. And even some of the best players have a hard time against it because it's so hard to pin him down. Like generally when somebody goes to attack you, people are really good at striking you where you are, you know, not where they think you're going to be. That's like another skill entirely. So by learning to be elusive in mid-range, it's really good because now you can learn how to engage and disengage, playing into a strength and playing away from your opponent's strength, like simultaneously. You know, you can just kind of like dunk and dive, like in and out of range, hit and run type of play style. Okay, so element 19 says you whiff a crouching light attack as bait, then cancel its recovery into an evasive standing light attack. For most characters, the preferred ploy would be chaining crouching light kick into stand light punch, because the crouching light kick's outstretched vulnerable area will be replaced by the relatively safe stand light punch hitbox. Any low poke meant to punish the low short will pass harmlessly under a standing jab. Some game engines don't allow kicks to be chained to punches, in which case crouching light kick, stand light kick is the next best choice, especially if that character's stand light kick narrows their baseline hitbox by kicking high with their front leg. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys an example of this because there's no video example of this, okay? So check this out. I'm going to go into gameplay. Let's see. I actually have to pick Cammy for this, because Cammy has a standing light kick that does this exact same thing, and I'm going to provide an example, a visual example for you guys, so you guys can see what the skeleton of the move looks like, okay? Check this out. So while this is loading, I'm going to pop up this amazing website that I use. It's a great tool, SF5 Sim. Basically, this entire website has all of the characters laid out, every single one of their moves by patch. All right, so you can go to the most recent patch, of course, if you're a competitive player, and you can choose any of the move. All right, and it gives you a frame by frame picture of what the move looks like. Okay, so you're not going to see the skin of the character, you're not going to see Cammy, like her flesh, but you'll see the hitboxes, which are basically what comprise the attack and, you know, the vulnerability of a move, like those type of properties. Okay, so we're going to take our stand light kick, which is 5. If you're not familiar with notations, number notations, just look at a keypad, okay? And where it says 5 would be if you let go of the stick, 4 would be if you were holding back, 6 would be forward, okay? So like when you see 5 LP, that means standing. When you see 2, that means crouching, okay? So there's that. So we're gonna go to 5 LK, which is stand light kick, okay? All right, so let's click on this, and you're gonna see that this is the first frame of the move, okay? So I'm just picking Cammy right now. Let me see. Actually, yeah, do this. Okay, so this is frame 1, this is frame 2, frame 3, frame 4. It starts up in 4 frames, exactly, okay? So now, if you look at this move, compared to the previous frame, which is the same as the first 3 frames, Cammy doesn't move, okay? So we don't have to think about that. We don't have to make it any more complicated than that. So she's in the same exact range as when she pressed the button initially. Now, the thing you want to pay attention to is what summons. It just appears on the box of the character. You see how this green box is there? Well, this green represents the hurt box. That's what you're trying to strike when you perform a move, okay? And the red is what is striking, okay? So when Cammy does stand light kick, this is exactly what it looks like on frame 4, 5, okay? So she has 2 active frames. So those 2 active frames are how long somebody can run into the move. I always give this example. If I put a punch out there, you ever seen those like movies where the bully just like puts his hand out and the kid just runs into it blindly? He's just and he's just like completely comatose. That's what an active frames mean. That's what they represent. Is how long does my move stick out there so you could potentially run into it? Okay, so you see it has 2 active frames because on frame 4 and 5 there's still red. When there's no red, that means it's not active, okay? So the reason why we're focusing on this is because you see how Cammy's hitting, right? But her hurt box isn't underneath her leg. So what it looks like in the actual game is this, all right? All right. So what would be like underneath her leg, you see how where I paused it? The red Cammy, all right? Underneath her leg, there's no hurt box. All right, so that means she can attack and avoid attacks that come into that range at the same time. All right, so let's go back to this example. So right here, this empty space would basically, you just wouldn't be able to strike her. You'd have to hit deeper into the attack, but the thing is, the deeper you go, that means the more your character leans in. So the risk would increase too, unless you have a move that low profiles. Not many characters have that in this game because of the design of the game. But that's another lesson entirely. So we pay attention to this, okay? So what this footsie concept was emphasizing is that you would take a crouching light attack, right? And you use that as bait. So if you're in an intense situation in footsies and you're swaying back and forth, you walk into the range and you just do crouching jab, but then you immediately cancel into stand light kick, you would just be suddenly like skinnier. So I'll show you. This is what it looks like. This is her stand light kick, right? Okay, so now let's look at her crouching light punch. So we go to 2 LP, which is again down, and look at this. All right, we're gonna go back and forth between the 2 hitboxes. Do you see how much fatter she is over here on the front, where the hitbox for the crouching jab is? So when you immediately switch to that stand light kick, this basically shifts from, hey, you can attack me, to, oh, wait, no, you can't. You can't attack me anymore. You see? So this is something that is really useful in a footsies situation where, tactically speaking, you could go into a range, you can whiff the crouching light punch, and they see that, but they just see you crouching. And when you're crouching, you're fatter, right? So somebody's just looking to whiff punish, but then all of a sudden you do stand light kick, and now their button that was supposed to strike you here, it whiffs, okay? So, and especially because the hitbox on this is so far away from the hurt box, it's very unlikely that this move will trade, okay, with like another light attack or even get out prioritized by a heavier attack because it sticks so far out, okay? So we go to the gameplay example again. I keep forgetting to use my stream deck, like have it right there, I just don't use it, but okay. So I'll show you an in-game example of this. So let's say Cammy, actually let me record this. I'm gonna save it right here, okay? So it's saved right there. If you guys don't know, I'll do a lesson on training mode examples or how to use it in probably next week or a couple weeks after I finish this. But so if you don't, please use the reload memory feature. It's so godlike. So I can just reload it like that. It's really, really cool. So I'm gonna have Cammy walk up. Oh shit, wrong Cammy. Ah, mind fucked. Okay, try this again. Okay, so I'm gonna have Cammy walk up, walk out, walk up. Okay, do that again. Let me have her on the player 2 side. Okay, be a lot easier for me. So I'm gonna have her walk into range, walk out of range, walk back into range, crouching light punch, stand light kick. Okay. So walk in, walk out. All right. Okay, so watch this. Let's say, see how I hit her there? Right? But you see that? So I'm gonna maintain this exact range. All right. But you see, because she canceled it last second, she ends up hitting me on my hurt box of my crouching medium kick, which is a lot fatter than her crouching light punches. So I'll show you an example of that. So I will take you to, let's see, Cammy's 2MK is what we're looking for. And this is what it looks like. All right. When she does the move, look how much fatter she becomes. She becomes fatter before the move becomes active. And when it's active, it's not even in front of the hurt box. So you see how you can use this against, you can use that stand light kick against the crouching medium kick. Even though crouching medium kick has more priority because of the hitbox hurt box interaction, which is what element 19 was teaching us, you'll see how you can use that against it to completely just circumvent the chances of priority happening, because I'm becoming skinnier where you're hitting me. All right. So that's how you can use that. So hopefully that made sense. And now we move on to the next example. So let's see. So element 20, leverage the threat of an effective poke to secure an extra step forward, then use it to set up a throw mix-up. Watch shooting D follow a slow fireball into crouching medium kick range, then hover menacingly over that spot for a moment before advancing to land the throw. It worked because prior rounds had taught his opponent to respect his precision with crouching medium kick and fireball spacing. Of course, the direct counter to that maneuver is simply marching in without hesitation and throwing him first, as Anakin irreverently demonstrates shortly thereafter. Okay, I don't know why I said irrelevantly, whatever. So anyways, so this example basically, you're gonna see how somebody tries to induce hesitation by walking into a range and just consistently poking, right? It just consistently does it, and then it starts to just force your opponent to asphyxiate on a particular solution. So when he notices there's a shift, or you don't even have to notice, you can just guess, you know, do it maybe twice and then on the third time. That's the general rhythm of people. They do something twice, the third time they change. That's a lesson I have to teach you guys also. But so you walk into a range, you do crouching medium kick fireball twice. The next time you walk in, you hover, right? You look like you're trying to adjust your spacing, but then you just walk up and throw them or something like that. Okay. All right. So you're going to see an example of this right now. So you're going to see an example of both. So let's see. Who is he playing? He's playing Ken. Okay. So you see how the Ryu player just walked up and did that? Let me put on full screen for you guys. Walks up, he shimmies, so he's demonstrating, hey, I'm in this range where I know I can do crouching medium kick into fireball, right? But he's hovering to just make him go, just hesitate, just enough so he can go and grab him, all right? You see? And he does it again, but this time he just walks up with him. He just walks up and interrupts his conversation. Think of Footsies like a conversation. He's like pausing, you know, he doesn't say anything, and he's like, I'm not gonna say anything. And then the Ken player's like, all right, you're not gonna say anything? I'm gonna just walk up and throw you. All right, so we can just watch all of this all over again. This all happens in a couple of seconds. Walks up, throw. All right. And you see right after he does the walk up throw, he does that crouching medium kick. That's what was setting up the walk up throw. Okay, so let's watch this again. Shimmy, walk up, throw. Okay, and then low forward fireballs. And he tries to do it again, but this time the Ken player is like, you know, I'm sick of your shit. I'm just not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this. All right. So as soon as he sees him start to do that little shimmy, he just walks up and throws him. That's a great example of that element. Okay. So you guys following along so far? Everything's okay? Hey, KO, thank you for tuning in. Godly, my brother, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Okay, so let's see. So element 21, after blocking a long-range jump attack, try walking backward instead of low blocking if you expect your opponent to attempt anything fancy. For example, if Ryu tries to catch Gao with a delayed sweep, Gao can walk out of range to make it whiff. Obviously, this tactic should be used sparingly because it would make an awful primary strategy. However, it's a great way for solid defensive characters to frustrate opponents who already have trouble finding a way inside. Walking backward before blocking the jump attack also helps mess with their spacing. Okay.
I appreciate that.
Oh, Godly, thank you, sir, for the sub. I appreciate that, bro. That means a lot to me. I'm gonna actually drop a little surprise for you guys at the end of the stream for all my subs. I'm gonna mention that. Don't let me forget that before I leave, okay, guys? All right. So, yeah, so let's see. Blocking a long range jump attack. Try walking backwards instead of low blocking. Okay, yeah, so, you know, usually when people block, they kind of commit. They're like, okay, I'm in block stun, right? But when you are really keen and alert, you know that, like, block stun is, like, a thing, okay, right? But it's the lead up afterwards where there's a gap that they take advantage of. How are they taking advantage of the gap? That's what you're trying to see in this example. So this Guile player is going to just walk out of range after blocking this jumping attack, okay? And see, and he forced him to whiff. So I'm going to show you guys, again, this is really fast. This is really fast. But just watch after the jumping attack. Watch what happens. I'm going to do a slow version of it afterwards. This fireball, he blocks, okay? Now watch what Guile does. He walks back, and that sweep whiffs, and he does crouching medium kick, okay? Watch this again. Okay, so now I'm gonna do it really slow, frame by frame. So he's in block stun, but he still walks back because he knows that, hey, the Ryu player is gonna have to tune in. He's gonna have to go into my rhythm, you know, and try to counter me or whatever. So he's gonna have to move up and take advantage of the block stun. But I know because he's gonna have to move up, I can also move back. As long as he doesn't do the sweep early enough. If he committed to sweep right away, he would have got hit. But he's not doing that. He's not doing the sweep right away because it's not hitting. So he's not thinking to just do, hey, jump in, heavy kick, and I'm going to sweep. He's doing jump in, and then I see you block, and I'm going to walk up and try to take advantage of the block stun. This is the thing a lot of people do. So see how he whiffs that? Boom. And he whiff punishes it. So yeah. What's going on, Hot Stepper? My man Earl, what's good? Much love to you, man. It was a pleasure meeting you this weekend at Conquest. That was definitely one of my highlights. Okay, so yeah, okay, so let's see. So yeah, it's really good for like defensive characters because think of it like this, right? You have Guile, and you know Guile, obviously when he's playing neutral, he's keeping you out. So for X amount of seconds, that might frustrate you. That might frustrate the opponent, and then when they get in, they just thirst for blood. They're just like, I finally can taste it, you know? And then you're just doing little things to just really irritate them and make them just get more irritable. And the more angry somebody is, the more they delve off course and stay, they don't focus on what they're trying to accomplish. They just become really short, like their goals become short term. Okay, so when you do little things like this as a defensive player, you can really frustrate people because it seems like they can never pin you down. All right, and you see how this theme of this chapter is about that elusiveness in Footsies. We've seen the elusiveness by shifting your hurt box, and we see it here by moving out of range, even though you're negative because your opponent's positive in that situation. So you can use that against them. Okay, so this is just a really good tactic if you're playing Dawson, if you're playing Guile, if you're playing Nash or something like that, you know, and then you block in you block a jump in or a plus attack, and you know that your opponent wants to walk up and throw you or walk up and start pressuring you again. You can literally walk back and just boom. Like against Fujimura, actually, I can show you guys an example of that. Let me see. I have an example of that against Fujimura. Let's see. So when I was playing against him, right, I noticed he would always do this walk-up throw against me in a certain sequence. So on purpose, when I would block at a certain spacing, I would just walk back, and then he would keep on whiffing. He would just continue to whiff the walk-up throw on me, and I was like, damn, I'm getting so much mileage off of this. This is kind of crazy. I don't know if I can find it. If I can't find it in the next 10 seconds, I'm gonna just, let's see. Let's see. I think I found it, but no. Damn. Nope. Oh, damn, I did actually. Okay, so let me show you guys this really quick. All right. Okay, so check this out. All right, it's a really like micro scale situation. You have to really be alert to catch this, okay? So let's see. So he hits me with that and he gets the dash up, right? And he does jab, throw. I just walked out. When I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. See, that's why I paused right there. I was like, huh. I kind of paused. I was like, I wonder if I can use that against him, okay? And this is why I say crouching is an indicator of somebody thinking. If somebody crouches, if their butt touches the ground, that's like a big cue that somebody's trying to think of something, okay? So let me see if I can show the example of when I use that against him. Let me see. So see how I was walking back right here? I was walking back, but I was still blocking. So that was really good because he'd have to do like a low forward, but he doesn't get anything off a low forward with a Buki. So that's why it's really good. It's really strong against a Buki because if she doesn't have V trigger, she can't low forward me into V trigger. All right. Let's see. Can't find it. Whatever. But yeah, that's just like an example of using the defensive aspect of like, you know, pressure or whatever and turning that against them, basically. Okay, so let's see. So element 22. Make your opponent block your poke at the exact distance so that their counter poke will barely whiff from where they end up. If you poke from too far away, they won't want to push a button. The closer you get to that perfect distance where their counter poke misses by a pixel, the more enticing that button will seem in their eyes. Doing this well hinges on one crucial secret principle. In most fighting games, crouching makes your character bigger and blocking makes your character bigger. Don't crouch and don't block. See how I told you guys that? Such specialized tricks may not factor into every match you play, but there are literally hundreds of them, if not thousands. Every minor advantage counts towards giving you an edge over the competition. Playing footsies against someone means putting up everything you've got against everything they know, so everything counts. Let's see. What's this example of crouching? Ah, nice. Okay. So you guys see what happened right there? That was really fast. You see that? You see why that whiffed? Because at the last possible second, this player just did stand jab. And boom. So it's kind of like a combination of like the 19th element that we just reviewed, using that stand light kick, slight punch rather, to like make it so that she stayed skinny at her legs. But you see how she counter poked, right, with the stand strong, and it pushes Akuma back. Look at his body. Look at where his original position is when he blocks it, right? And now look where he ends up. You see that pushback? That creates a larger difference in spacing now. So he's not here anymore. He's over here. So in their mind, if they're not calculating that and they just go and press a button like he does right here, see, he walked up a little bit, but that still wasn't enough. All right, so the better players, the more expertise players, they'll walk up even more. All right, they'll walk up even more to make sure that that button makes contact with you. So that's why it's harder to be out of range of the better players, but that also leaves them susceptible to being poked because they like to walk up. You see what I'm saying? But if the thing is, if you keep poking somebody, eventually you're pushing yourself out of range. So if you do it too much and the person starts walking back, like you saw with the Gal example, you see how everything kind of goes and flows together and you see counters to counters. So if this Chun-Li does this stand medium punch, right? As you see here. And if the Akuma player if he just walks up and he does crouching light kick or something, right? And then he cancels that to stand light kick, he'll go underneath her sweep, all right? But then like if she knows that, then she can counter it by walking up and throwing him. You see what I'm saying? Like, so there's just like so many counters to so many situations. There's no like one solution that can beat everything. There's nothing like that exists in fighting games. Okay, unless it's Abigail, because fuck Abigail. But yeah. All right. Cool. So let's see. Okay. So yeah, that's why you don't want to crouch and block primarily in footsies, because it makes you fatter. And I showed you guys on the other stream, like when you're crouching, right, and you're fatter, it makes it so that your opponent can build bar. Okay, right? So I'll give you an example. I know I show you guys this a couple times, but again, just for the sake of the discussion, I'll do it again. So we'll have it. So let's see. Trying critical to normal, B gauge to normal. Okay, right. So Cammy doesn't want to block this because, especially in this game, you have a bunch of things happening. She's getting pushed back. That's number one. Number two, I'm gaining bar. All right. See my super bar? I'm about to hit 1 bar, and she's just barely over like 60%. Okay. So that's why you don't want to block, because you're going to be fatter. It's going to be easier to hit you. Okay. So there's that. And now, because you know that, there's also the gray damage. So imagine if I get all of this gray damage racked up, if I throw her, look how much damage that does. That's 150 off the back throw, plus whatever the gray damage was that I inflicted on her. And every time she blocks that, that's 10 gray damage, you know? So if I were to hit somebody with this on block twice, that's 20 damage on top of a back throw. That's 170 damage. That's like more than an EXDP hitting you. You basically just jumped at me. You see what I'm saying? Like, you just jumped at me and I anti-aired you. That's the equivalent of it. So if you make it so that your spacing is so on point, right, that you don't need to block, then you could do this. Because watch, if I crouch, see? So you see how this is whiffing? This is not a fluke. Again, I'll let go of the stick. No, it's not hitting me at all. All right? But the second I crouch and I block, you see what happens? Same thing if I crouch and I don't block. You can do an offensive crouch and it still does that. All right? So it's just something to keep in mind. Yeah, exactly. Ostep, but like he said it makes you more horizontally like wide, basically. That's exactly what's happening. Okay? All right. So now we're done with that. We can graduate over to chapter 8. So chapter 8 says, one of the most useful tools in footsies is the hop kick. Not every character is lucky enough to have one, but those who do tend to rely heavily on its offensive utility and mid-range control capabilities. Let's take a look at some examples. Okay. I'm gonna put Guile in right now while I'm reading this. Okay, so element 23. Hop kicks are practically free after certain moves at certain ranges in certain matchups. Become familiar with all of these safe setups, because as long as your method of attack requires huge risks to counter, you'll remain in charge of the match. Okay, so the thing about the word free, let me just interrupt that. Nothing is free. Nothing is ever free, because if somebody presents you the opportunity to punish something, it's not a free punish. You had to work for it. You know what I'm saying? Either you inflicted some psychological damage and then they cracked and they did something that was punishable, or you convinced them to do it, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, and even then you have to have the execution to punish it. You see how, so like nothing is free. You don't want to put that pressure on yourself, that burden. You want to just say, this is a really strong tactic right here. I understand it sounds like it's the same like vocabulary, but the intention and the meaning behind it makes all of the difference, because you can avoid a lot of tension, internal tension that you place on yourself if you have a game-winning combo on Daigo. You're like, this is a free combo. Too much pressure. You know, you just want to be like, hey, this is an opportunity, and I go right through. Boom. This is what I do. Okay. KO says my mind is expanding now. Word. I'm glad, bro. Let me pop in Guile really quick. Put Guile. Guile versus. Do Guile and Akuma. Guile Akuma. Okay. Yeah, people do exaggerate. You're right, Hasoon. Totally right. Okay. So where was I? Once you get your opponent thinking they need to psychic uppercut, that's half the battle won. Then all you have to do is follow through, bait it, and punish conclusively. Hop kicks are a good offensive foundation because they automatically avoid low attacks. They're too quick to counter on reaction, and they travel forward, so it's difficult to make them whiff. Look at that. That's like the best of all three worlds right there. They accomplish several goals, even when blocked. You establish momentum, you build meter, you drain the opponent's guard bar, and you back them into the corner or push your way out. Is this not what I just said like a couple of minutes ago? You're getting that meter, you're getting the grave damage on top of that, because that wasn't a thing in this I guess Footsies handbook yet. Guard bar, you know, so it's slightly different, but same thing in terms of what it accomplishes. By punishing you for blocking. Okay, so you have the bar, you have the gray damage, and then you have the pushback, the spacing. You know, that right there is like, that sucks. All right, so you're winning right there in 3 micro scale situations. So we talked about in my Art of War video that when you have a bunch of like a series of smaller victories add up to you winning an entire match. You see, so like if you can win in certain spacings by doing multi-purpose moves, all you have to do is do that multi-purpose move X amount of times while being prepared to punish the thing that's supposed to punish it, which would be like maybe a DP or somebody jumps. You punish those things and you fall back and rinse, wash, repeat that thing over and over again, then boom, all of a sudden you're blowing by people without doing not much effort. That's the supreme excellence that Sun Tzu was talking about in war, is like beating your opponent without ever really having to fight, you know? So this is a good example of that. So all right, let me click on the link, show you guys the example of this. All right, so we're gonna look at this example of hop kicks. Let's see. Nice, okay. Let's see, okay. Okay. Okay, see how he's jumping? Because after the low forward from a couple of seconds ago, he is trying to counter that follow-up hop kick. You see, that's why he's jumping anytime he blocks those moves at that range. This is really interesting. This is outside of what they're trying to teach, but I'm just seeing it through my own eyes, like what's going on his end, on the Relento side. This is dope. So you see how he does the stand roundhouse? And he crouches and he doesn't do anything because he's observing. He's like, remember what I said about crouching, right? Well, what did I say about crouching, guys? Put it in the chat so I know you're paying attention. All right, so he's crouching, and you know what that means. And see how he jumps with him? Because he's aware. You see how he's attempting to anti-air him or air-to-air him? Because he was aware of what the counter is to hop kick, because hop kick is so good. It moves forward, so it's hard to whiff. When a move is really hard to punish, like to make it whiff, you start to try to do big moves to punish it, you know? So you try to make it whiff, like by jumping or something like that, or trying to hit it where it can't hit you, so by jumping on top of it. That's why the Relento player is doing this, and the Gao player knows. All right, people crouch when they think. Exactly. Soon shut them down. George, you got it. You guys got it. I love you guys. Tatsu Monkey, what's going on? Thank you for tuning in. So yeah, so you see that. Let me go back a little bit more though. Let me refresh the so 325, so we can see the example they talked about. But you see how this all opened up that whole impression that like the Relento needed to jump just because he did this. Look at that. Just because he did that, that forced the Relento to be like, you know what? Anytime this happens again, I'm gonna start jumping. But the thing about awareness is that you need to have awareness of yourself. You see, this is where you can get conditioned. See, like people like to say, you know, I downloaded you. But shout outs to Kaizen for saying uploading. Uploading is way more godlike than downloading somebody. Because when you upload, you're literally pulling the strings like a puppeteer on somebody. I'm uploading you. I'm doing things to make you behave a certain way. I'm not downloading you. I'm not taking the time to figure out what you're trying to do. I'm controlling you at the same time as I control myself. So I'm playing 2 characters at the same time. That's dope. That's like the highest level of play, in my opinion. Downloading is like underneath, but like the highest is like suggestive influencing. That's like S tier. All right, and you see that, like look at the influence it's had. The Relento player starts jumping like a lot more in that range and stuff like that, you know. Look at that. And he's just trying to, you see he jumps back, dashes up. He's trying to convince him like, hey, come on, I know I'm trying to tell you this is what I'm doing. All right, so that was a really cool example. All right, so let's see, up close, Hop kicks, so this is element 24. So up close, hop kicks can be used to extend offensive sequences or interrupt telegraphed poke strings. Some are even considered truly airborne, temporarily rendering them immune to throw attempts. Since hop kicks trump such a wide variety of defensive attacks, their threat alone is enough to scare experienced opponents into blocking passively, which opens up all kinds of throw opportunities. Okay, so like in Street Fighter V, there aren't too many hop kicks that are airborne. There are a couple of characters that do have one, like Guile's upside down kick is airborne, so you can use that to, like, you know, beat people delay teching. You can use that in footsies against people that do a lot of walk up low forward. So like if you want to stay still and convince somebody to walk up, right? I'll show you guys an example of this. What's going on, YouTube? Thank you for tuning in. If you guys want to see an example of this, let's say I have Akuma, right? And he does light fireball, walk up into low forward. Okay, he just does that every time, right? Let me save this spacing. I want to save the spacing. So let's say Akuma does, oops, god damn it. He's gonna do light fire, or I'll do fierce fireball because it's faster. Walks up, that, right? That's a simple situation that happens a lot, okay? So if I know he's gonna do this, the next time I see this fireball at this exact spacing, I'll just do this. Let me do it. I'll do it delayed. See that? How I just went over his foot? Of course, you have to be really expertise with your timing. But you see how I can use that? Like, or I can walk back, you know? I can maybe do this, make it look like I'm stationary. But I'm really not. I'm actually just trying to lure him into attacking me. See? So that's an example of that. So is that making sense to you guys? I want to make sure. Yeah, the music is pretty godlike in that game, man. All right, so let's see how it can be used to extend offensive sequences. Let's see. Oh, nice. That was, oh my god, I love footsies, guys. That just makes me so happy. Like, I haven't played this game, but I'm pretty sure that's Tatsu. But you can still use Tatsu as a hop kick. It doesn't have to necessarily be a unique attack. But do you guys see that? Like, how he used the Tatsu, right? He does the counter poke right here, or not the counter poke. He does the max distance low forward, right? Walk up, and he does it. Right, it's a common shuttle tactic, like I was showing earlier with Akuma and Guile. But immediately after, he just does the whiff Tatsu because he knows he's gonna flow over. He's gonna just avoid that counter poke that Sakura's gonna do. All right, and look at that. So he does it. So he probably seen it, I guess, like right here. So that's probably what set it up. Okay, so let me rephrase this. So when he does this, right, and he jumps, he sees like, oh, she did sweep. And he's in the middle of jumping, so he's like, you know, it's really good to be alert while you're doing things. Because if he just jumped and didn't care about Sakura and he's just thinking about damage, he would have completely ignored this. But while he's jumping, he sees information. He's like parachuting onto an island and he's like, oh, there's treasure right there. Hold up. Parachutes in that direction. So as soon as he gets back in, you see how he sets it up again? And this time he does the Tatsu. Boom. All right. Tongue tie, what's going on, man? Thank you for tuning in. So you guys see how he used that? He used the hop kick to extend his offense. And it doesn't necessarily have to hit. It could just be enough to where the person flinches and goes, wait, what the fuck just happened? What? And then that can set up a throw, you know? Because they don't see that. They're like, well, I'm confused. That just doesn't make sense. Okay? All right, so that was to extend the offensive sequence. Interrupt telegraphed poke strings. Okay, so let's see this example. Oh, see, that was nice. That was exactly what. Oh, tongue tie, thank you for the sub. Damn, I appreciate it, man. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I will not forget my subscription surprise for you guys coming up. I'm gonna tell you guys at the end of the stream. I promise I won't forget. All right, so let's tune into this. Let's see what just happened. All right. Where was it? Okay, so check this out. All right, so after I guess he gets a sense of when he's gonna do walk up low forward. right? So it's after the strong. He does max range strong, and he knows he's not in range to attack, so he has to move. And look at that. Boom. That was really good. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure that would have whiffed. Let's see. Oh, yeah, so you moved back a little bit. So he was probably anticipating a counter poke. Because, I mean, that's what usually happens when you max distance poke somebody with a shorter button. Like, let's say, his crouching medium punch, right? This is a mirror match, so they're always at the same spacing. His crouching medium punch is shorter than his low forward. So, in knowing that, that can, like, he's probably like, all right, I'm going to poke you with a medium, and that means I'm still in range of your low forward. All right? So, I'm not going to do the low forward because I want you to be aware, like, he didn't do low forward, so that means I'm still in range of my low forward. Oh my god, I'm going to counter poke. And that's probably why he walked back right here. You see how he's walking back, the Ken in black? He's walking back. And then he immediately commits to the low forward because he's just trying to whiff. He's trying to anticipate whiff punish. It's wish punishing, right? It's not whiff punishing, he's wish punishing. So he's trying to wish punish, and the Ken player, the white, he's aware of this tactic. He's like, I've seen this 1,000 times, Jimmy. Hold up. Boom. So he just commits to the universal overhead. Look at that. Brilliant. Brilliant. All right. Okay. So let's see. And the last part of this element 24 was saying that since hop kicks trump such a wide array of defensive attacks, their threat alone is enough to scare experienced opponents into blocking passively, which opens up all kinds of throw opportunities. So this would be a throw opportunity. We're gonna see right now. Let's see how this works. Let me go back 10 seconds. Wow. Wow. Daigo, what is wrong with you? Daigo's an asshole. You see that? So he basically, he like understood that boss is anticipating some sort of like hop kick because it's so strong in this game, right? And because he's like, all right, well, I'm in a range where it's not gonna whiff, so I don't want to press a button. I'm gonna just wait for him to space himself out and then make my move. He never gives him the chance. He just keeps dashing up and throwing him. You see how that like type of hesitation was induced just because of the threat of an attack. Sometimes you don't even have to do the attack, and they'll just be so petrified of it. See? Look at that. What? Come on. None of that is luck. That's all like a story. It's like a narrative that you've painted in your opponent's mind. Like, I'm going to do this, and then it's just like a cliffhanger. And they're like, wait, what's going on? And all of a sudden, it's just a plot twist. Oh my god, what's going on? That's how you confuse them, you know? So, when he senses you can be bullied, he will bully. Exactly. Element 25. Characters who possess air dive kicks without minimum jump height requirements can adapt them to mimic the tactical functionality of hop kicks. Examples include ST Dalsum's jump down plus medium kick drill, Cammy's Street Fighter 4 Cammy's cannon strike, Street Fighter 4 Rufus's down forward plus medium kick. What is this? CFE? I don't know what this is. CFE, Anna carries, whatever. And X-Men vs. Street Fighter's Wolverine's jump down plus medium kick. As long as it can float directly over an opponent's low attacks and recover faster than they can react to anti-air, it'll provide a huge offensive boost to your game plan. Remember, you aren't trying to win the match with hop kicks alone. Never get caught up in overusing them to the point of becoming predictable and abandoning your game plan or forgetting other effective tools in your arsenal. Excuse me. Utilize hop kicks just enough to discourage an opponent's best counterattack option and seize the opportunity to expand your offensive scope. So you're not doing something primarily to just rely on it. You're doing it to create influence and to try to force your opponent to wear themselves thin on the focus spectrum. I give them so many things to think about that now it becomes like a numbers game, like that favors the house, which would be me, the person attacking. So that's favoring me because now they're forced to make a decision that they otherwise wouldn't be comfortable doing. Okay, so let's look at some examples of this. All right, so let's look at Dalsum's dive kick, how he can use that. So, okay, that was really nice. So let me pause this really. Okay, so let's see. Frame by frame. So you guys can see this. See how he does that? And he commits to it. Boom. And he just avoided the sweep. But if the Dalsum player had stayed there, all right, he probably would have had to block that. And obviously, if you block that, Ryu can do sweep into fireball, right? And then he's going to build his super bar. So, All right, that was the Dalsum example. This is Dammy. Okay.
It's really intense match right now. It's really intense match right now.
What just happened here?
It's really intense match right now.
I can't. This video is so old. Like, it's really difficult to see what the hell's going on. I can't make out what happened, but.
It's really intense match right now.
Huh. I don't know. I think he did the upper, but I don't know. Whatever. So yeah, okay. Let's look at this example. There you go. Better quality. All right. So let's see. Ah, okay. So like in Street Fighter 4, for my Street Fighter 4 heads, this was really strong. Rufus's instant dive kick because it would blow up delayed crouch techs. Okay. So let's see this. All right. So you'll see after he gets the jump in dive kick. All right. He does a tick. He does one poke, crouch and light kick. All right. And now he has the threat of throw, but instead he does instant dive kick. Rufus is doing that. All right. And you see how it's going over the crouching light kick? Because that's a crouch tech in Street Fighter 4. That way you could throw and block at the same time and crouch. All right. So their throw wouldn't whiff, which they got rid of in Street Fighter 5. But yeah, see? So that was a really creative way of countering that. Capcom Fighting Jam. All right. Let's see. I don't think he counterpoked though. Did he counterpoke? No, he just got hit. He just had to hold that. Alright, so these are just examples of characters that can do it. Oh wow. We see how it's like really hard to keep track of what he's trying to do because he can just move so fluidly. He can jump and follow all the way through with his movement, or he can just cancel his momentum into a dive kick. So he can go from like transitioning offense to instant offense, and that makes it really difficult to track what the hell, like what's going on the screen at that time, especially if you're not anticipating it or looking for it. It can be really difficult. All right, so let's see. Oh, that's from the older video. Okay. So yeah, let's see. What's the best way to counter hop kicks? Which is element 26. In most cases, preventing opponents from establishing that ideal range is the wisest solution. Once they've already found it, the safest option is to block and think about what they're going to do next. Then capitalize on your prediction or escape to a superior position. One hop kick by itself won't cost you the match, but feeling pressured might. Beyond that, it's up to you to find optimal counters for each matchup. Pro tip, try standing jab. It works against dive kicks too. All right. Let's see. Oh, nice. So you see how he counters the Tatsu? Right here. Boom. It has very little risk behind it because it's such a fast recovering normal that it's very unlikely that they would be able to punish it like on a whiff or something like that. They'd have to hit you, you know? But yeah, so that's a really good option to have. It's good to know that you have multiple ways of dealing with one thing, or managing with one thing rather. That way you don't get overwhelmed. You don't feel like it's the end of the world if one of the options doesn't work. You want to be able to cycle through your options with confidence. Like, oh, this didn't work. Let me try this. All right. Nice. This is the example of countering it with the jab again. Nice. Of course, you want to be like against like a dive kick like this because it hits so sharp. You probably want to make it so that your spacing is a lot better so it doesn't hit you. You see how he's kind of just like poking Dalsum right before he gets to him? So, okay. And the last chapter. Chapter 9 for today. Die Hard 4, what's up? One thing Street Fighter 5 did right. Dive kick's so annoying. I feel you on that. Since jumping is such a slow commitment, and since ground counters to cross-up attempts are much quicker than the air time required to reach cross-up position, Effective cross-up setups are more about anticipation than reaction. Due to sheer damage potential, one well-timed ambiguous cross-up can turn the tide of an entire battle. Finding reliable ways to create such opportunities is essential to any offensive-minded game plan, sometimes to the point of passing up guaranteed damage in favor of arranging a convenient cross-up. Let's look at an example of this. Oh, that's good. That was really good. So instead of him punishing with, like, you know, because it's Guile and he's a charge character, he doesn't have the charge. He could have did like back throw or something like that, but he's like, you know what? Let me poke you, and then with that poke, it's gonna set up the range of cross up, right? Look at that. And now he gets a jump in combo on top of the crouching medium punch damage that he just inflicted. All right, so you don't always have to do damage. Like you can do the more optimal thing depending on the opponent's tendencies. You can transmute guaranteed damage into greater damage. All right. Okay, so let's see. Element 27. Eliminate the opponent's capacity to anti-air by knocking them down first. In fact, one of the primary goals of footsies is to land a sweep or psychic DP precisely for the purpose of securely jumping over them as they stand up. Simple, right? So let's see. Nice. And he gets all that pressure. So you got all of that pressure because of his commitment to his read, and he was willing to do it. Okay. So let's see. Element 28. I think that element 27 was pretty straightforward. You just want to knock him down, and then you can just create pressure off of it. Okay. Element 28. Bait your opponent into committing to a slow attack and jump over them as it whiffs. This method is slightly more complicated and considerably riskier, but there are several ways to get it done. You can tick with light attacks to push them into position, then fake a throw and go for the cross-up as their counter throw misses. You can catch them focusing too heavily on ground footsies and jump over their crouching medium kick pokes while they're fishing to land a super move. You can even poke them from a safe distance until they get frustrated enough to become predictable with their counter pokes. Then jump over one of them as soon as you feel out their rhythm. Okay, so this is really good to know for Street Fighter V purposes because, excuse me, a lot of people, when they get V-trigger, they will just let their V-trigger crush counter button like fly. Whatever the crush counter button is that converts into a lot of damage, they just let that button fly. So for example, Camis are super susceptible to doing crouching fierce. Okay, it's not a crush counter, but that's like their go-to to get into V-trigger. Karen's with stand roundhouse, Urian with crouching medium kick. Who else? Abuki with low forward. What else? Who's another common? Oh, Akuma with stand fierce into stand fierce. All right, like those type of like moves, they're like really kind of obvious leading up to it. You can basically, if you're in a predicament where it's difficult to whiff punish it, you can set up like a jump in counter to it. So example, you don't have to jump in. Let's say if I'm too close, I can't jump in, but I can neutral jump it. You know what I'm saying? You can neutral jump a button and boom, all of a sudden it's like, that's a lot of damage that you've now inflicted on your opponent, especially if they're not anticipating you neutral jumping randomly in footsies like that. That's something to consider. All right. So let's look at this example of catching them focusing too heavily on ground footsies and jumping over their crouching medium poke. All right, let's see. So you see how the low forward never came out? The reason why the low forward doesn't come out is because the Chun-Li's just focused on whatever's going on. But the point behind the Ken jumping is that he notices that Chun-Li's focus is so ground oriented right now, and she's like tunnel visioned, that she's allowing him to jump. So it becomes 50-50 at that point. You're gonna have to guess left to right. If you're just letting me do this, of course I'm gonna abuse it. What the hell? I'm gonna win if this hits, right? So you see how he just keeps jumping? Because she's just so focused on footsies. This is like the detriment. This is what can happen if you become too focused on footsies, you see? And now all this happens. So you want to be careful. You don't want to let it be known that you're looking for something. You don't want to be obvious, all right? Like create a little bit of chaos so that your opponent's confused. Because when they get comfortable like this, that's not good, all right? That crouching stuff like we talked about. Colleen's crouching medium kick. Exactly, Die Hard. You right on the money, bro. Okay, so let's see. Elements 29. So before I conclude with 28, so understanding the rhythm is really good for that. If you can jump and they're not anti-airing, then of course, you know, do it, whatever. If you're jumping and their anti-air is whiffing because of a spacing, you know, do that, whatever. But if you're specifically trying to jump on a button, you have to figure out their rhythm first. And then that's like, you know, maybe it's after a block stun, maybe it's when they walk back, maybe it's when they walk forward, but there's usually something that'll tell you, all right? Like the stronger players, what did I say? They walk up before they press their button, right? So if I was playing against a stronger player, then I'd be like, oh, you want to hit me with V-trigger? So I'm going to wait till you move forward, I'm going to neutral jump, because you're going to just commit to it on the walking forward part. And when I neutral jump, if you let that button whiff, that's a jumping roundhouse into a max punish combo, all right? Cool. So element 29, do something chaotic, then go for a cross up while confusion throws off their reflexes long enough to get them into trouble. I just said this, right? Creating that chaos. Maintain that pressure for as long as you can keep them off balance, or until they can gain enough meter to tilt the risk reward scales too far in their favor. Back off when you sense desperation, or at least switch to attack patterns which are safe from their most tempting comeback scenario. So even if they have a super, if they have like, let's say if I'm pressuring Urian, and I've confused the shit out of him, right? And now I'm pressuring him, and now he just built one bar. Instead of me doing like the pressures with the medium attacks, I would switch to light attacks, because if I do light attacks and I put like 1 frame blocks between the buttons, then I'm more likely to block his reversal EX headbutt. You know, because light attacks generally are like 11 frames on recovery, or total animation 11 frames, and his EX headbutt doesn't start until I think frame 12 or 14. It's one of those two. But if you're pressuring with light attacks and you put those 1 frame blocks in between your strings, you could literally just autopilot offense and block automatically without even having to like really look for it, you know? But that's how you can use that against them. So you could just adjust your offense accordingly. Okay, so let's see this. This is creating chaos and then going for the cross up. All right. So this Blanca's giving him a lot to think about. You see? See? So now he's just kind of like flustered. And if you can do this, if you can figure out how to do this against the top players, then you can drastically swing things in your favor. And in order to do that, you just need to figure out like, what are they focused on? What is their comfort levels? What makes them tick? That's why having empathy is really important at the highest level, because then you can understand what is the how do you say, the breaking point of a player, of a top player. Like what would make them crack, what makes them just completely lose track of what their goal was in a set. Okay, all right, so shit, let's see. Element 30, shut down an opponent's cross-up attempt with a vertically aimed normal move. Then time your jump to catch them with a cross-up as they land on their feet. On a related note, whoever wins an air-to-air encounter usually lands first by a large enough margin to immediately re-jump for a cross-up as the reeling opponent descends. Another alternative is to wait until someone jumps from long distance, then jump over them as they come down, which I really love this example, by the way. This works especially well in games with air blocking and air parry mechanisms, which gives players an incentive to forego attacking. Okay, so the thing about Street Fighter 5 though is when you air to air somebody, because of the jump, like the floaty jumps, you can actually land negative even though you're the one that air to aired, and it's really annoying, but it just is what it is. So this element isn't as strong in the air to air aspect, but when you do anti-air somebody with a button and you jump in on them, you can set that up really well, and you know it's a really strong thing to do. All right. Zodiac Kokoro, absolutely not, but I'll have a stream about that soon enough. Okay, so let's see. Example. This is an anti-air example setting up a jump and cross up. Back it up a little bit. Nice. Okay. You see how he air to airs Mike Ross? I miss you, Mike. Come back. So he air to airs him, right? And then he's landing falling straight down. He's not landing getting pushed away. And at that exact spacing is still cross up range. And he tries to backdash. Dive kick hits him. Okay, cool. But then he sets it up again, right? And now look. So this basically, this moment right here, like this scramble, it causes your opponent to be emotional because it removes logic. It's happening so fast, you don't have time to assess the situation. All right, so this is why it's really good to do this against logical players, because they're just so used to thinking. Like if you do this against a Tokido, it would be really good because Tokido's so used to thinking and being logical. You know what I'm saying? He has a side of him that can be illogical and really instinctual and stuff like that, but primarily he plays like, you know, A plus B equals C. Okay, so this is something that would work against him. All right, and this is another example of the anti-air into a cross-up. Oh no, this is the jump-in example actually. So you see how the Rolento jumped in? And the Blanca, he reacted and he jumps on top of him. Right? Because usually when people jump at you, you'll notice they press the button where you are on the ground. So you see how the Blanca's crouching? They're trying to hit him where they think he is. You see how I was saying earlier, it's important to be aware of where your opponent is versus where you think they're going to be. Okay? So that by him thinking he's gonna be there, that ends up working against him, because now he doesn't press the button in the air to air him. There's like hesitation, and now that creates a jump in cross up. And see, now that's confusing. So yeah, so that is, let me see. As you can see, there are countless ways to go about setting up cross-ups depending on the character matchup and your opponent's tendencies. It's just a matter of developing a strong enough ground game to train your opponent to stop expecting you to jump. At the beginning of a match, everyone tries to stay out of cross-up range or to refrain from using slow attacks at that distance. Once you catch them slipping into that spot and behaving dangerously, that's when you should start looking for your chance to cross them up without making your intentions obvious. So, of course, you know, when you play against tournament players, they want to gradually increase their risk. Some players, they play the opposite. They play risky right away because they're just trying to overwhelm you if they think they're better than you, or they're just trying to put you on tilt. But for the most part, there's a lot of people, they kind of hover at range 3, and that's like the rhythm range we talked about, and they just try to feel each other out, and then they increase progressively. They increase their risk based off of your tendencies, your intentions, their strengths, your weaknesses, your strengths, their weaknesses. So it's a dance. They're trying to figure you out, right? And get to know you. And during the conversation, they're going to ask you certain questions. And those questions they're going to ask you are through movement, through actions, or paying attention to what you're doing, okay? So that's why it's good to introduce these like varied approaches, because it makes it very difficult to pinpoint exactly where your state of mind is. All right, guys? So that's that for today. Hopefully that helped you guys out. Please let me know what you guys think. If you guys haven't already, you know the drill. Follow me on here. Follow me also on my Twitter page, where I will